All right. Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome back, Mary Beth. Happy New Year.
Happy New
It is
Year. How are you? And
2024.
how was your year end?
It was quiet, which is the way I like it.
Yeah,
Just no at my age we don't party hard anymore.
exactly.
So 2024, the year that A Boy and His Dog takes place. So another post-apocalyptic or dystopian film. Anyway, watch that one.
Yep.
Maybe we'll do that. That's probably Roy's probably already done it, but maybe we'll do that one since it's 2024. Let us know in the comments if you guys want us to do it. Hey, Bill, how are you? Jeff's here. Welcome, Martin. Thanks for joining us. Happy New Year, guys. So this week we're going to kick off the new year and this show with we're going to do Star Wars fan films. We all know about Star Trek ones. Half of us were involved in them at some point. But I kind of started watching these Star Wars ones over the last few months. Well, quite more than just the last few months. And I noted that some of these are really, really, really good. So we're going to talk about that, where they kind of started, where they're going, what's going on. But before we do that, I think we have some news.
We have a little bit of news. Let's see what I got here tonight. Happy 2024, everyone. And first of all, public service announcement from me to you. If you did like I did, and back in the fall went and got the COVID booster and flu, go back and get your RSV vaccine, because I'm 99% certain that I am just right now recovering from RSV. And guys, you know what? It kicked my ass. It was bad. It was as bad as COVID, if not worse. So go get that RSV vaccine, and you will hear me coughing and croaking throughout tonight's show. I apologize in advance. I'll try to mute myself if it gets really, really bad. La, 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 la. In the news tonight, Steamboat Willie has entered the public domain, and already there are 2 horror movies in the works. I think Disney, I don't get it. I don't get why they...
So that was Disney. Yeah, that was Disney's original, very first.
Yeah, do you remember like the black and white mouse? That was, yeah.
Yeah, where Mickey's... So that the reason is because the copyrights don't last forever, and they already extended it several times.
I think they should extend it again.
They just couldn't anymore. So now, yeah, that cartoon is now public domain, much to...
I believe they did. Yeah, they did a horror with Winnie the Pooh. It's called Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, and that's what I get the vibe that they're going to do with Steamboat Willie, and I think it's
I don't know. They just do it to kind of give the finger to Disney. I think that they make them horror movies or something. I mean, why take something like that? And I don't understand it, but it's art, I guess. I don't have to understand it.
It's art. Are you sure? Is it really?
I'm using a very broad brush when I say that.
I don't know that it was art.
I didn't see it. I didn't see the Winnie the Pooh thing. I'm thinking just the reason they do it.
I'm not watching that.
Somebody had that vision. My thing is, I still think it's more of a FU to Disney. We can screw with
it. It probably is. I mean, they don't have free range, just do whatever they want. But yeah, all right. Moving on. Disco has released its episode titles. We're going to be getting 10 episodes starting in April. I will watch them. No, we probably will not be doing a 3-minute review unless you guys are just clamoring. But we will talk about it. But I don't know. I'm not super hyped for this one. What do you think, Rizzo?
No, I'm not super hyped for that one.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Rolling Stone magazine, because apparently they were bored on New Year's Day. I don't know. Released, or I should say re-released, because I feel like they release this every couple of years, but they released a new 150 of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time list. I'll just give you a couple of them. They plopped Matrix in at 10, Star Wars in at 9. They put Alien in at 5, Blade Runner at 4, Close Encounters at 3, a movie from 1979 called Stalker at 2, and 2001: A Space Odyssey at 1. And I got to tell you guys, I have no idea what Stalker is. Is this like some awesome movie that I'm missing out on?
Who's heard that one? Anybody? I don't know.
1979 Stalker. I have no idea what this is. Should we watch it? Should we review it? What is it?
Yeah, I don't know.
How is it the second greatest sci-fi movie of all time? Like, I get the other ones. I get the other ones.
Forbidden Planet in that list. Do you know?
Yeah, it's further up the list.
It had to be at least crack the top 20, I would think.
I have no idea. I would have to pull that list back up. But yeah.
But, those things are so subjective. They're so subjective. What we think it depends on what you like in sci-fi. Is it hardcore? A lot of people think Star Wars is not science fiction. It's science fantasy. So it doesn't really fall into the fiction, like 2001 would, or Aliens will be sci-fi horror. That's it's so subjective. So I don't ever take those. I never get personally upset.
I'm genuinely curious now. Like, am I missing out on something awesome that I should have known about? It's just kind of weird. I don't know.
Okay.
To me, it's out of left field, but maybe I'm no genius when it comes to sci-fi films. Maybe, like, if we had talked to Darren Dochterman about this, he'd probably be nodding very sagely. Oh, yes, of course, Stalker. That's a fabulous film. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm going to ask him that next time I see Darren. So what do you think of Stalker from 1979?
Yeah, Stalker, 1979. I don't even know who's in it. All right, let's move on. For my last story tonight, because we are doing fan films, both Rizzo and I know many of you listening and watching are no stranger to fan films. This last story discusses what happens to one fan who went too far, and I want to discuss this. And no, it's not Alec Peters. A California court
who shall not be named.
Yeah, it's not he who shall not be named. I know. I got to remember to refer to him as that. A California court has ordered a Lord of the Rings fan. His name is Demetrius Polychron, which to me is a very Harry Potter sounding name, but whatever. His name is Demetrius Polychron. A California court has ordered Polychron to destroy all copies, both physical and digital, of his book, The Fellowship of the King, which he had self-published. Polychron had reached out to the Tolkien estate several times over the years, said he was a big fan and he was so inspired, and he was writing his own continuation. Got no answer. Sent them a copy of the work when it was a draft. Got no answer. Tried again the next year. Did finally get rebuffed. And then tried a third time and had it returned unread. So this seems pretty straightforward. Polychron should have read the room and understood that his contributions, although enthusiastic, were not wanted. So when he went ahead and published it anyway, he self-published it. Anyway, he should have considered himself lucky that the Tolkien estate didn't take any immediate action, because they probably figured it was no threat. You had to search this thing out to find it. But the plot thickens. Apparently, somehow, and I don't quite understand this part, but apparently Amazon's Lord of the Rings of Power TV show plot bears a resemblance to Polychron's plot in his self-published novel, which his was a sequel and that thing's a prequel. So I don't quite get how that works, but whatever. So Polychron filed a lawsuit alleging the TV show copied his work, and this was a horrible mistake. He should not have done that. The Tolkien estate answered back with its own lawsuit saying, hey, you ignored our warning. We rarely authorize derivative works. You've committed copyright infringement by publishing and selling this book yourself. You've lifted plot points and verbatim phrases from Tolkien's original work. And they sent a cease and desist. And you probably guess what happened. This whole thing ended up in court. A judge dismissed Polychron's lawsuit, found for the Tolkien estate he has to stop selling his book and destroy it. And he was also ordered to pay attorney fees for both the Tolkien estate and Amazon Studios, who got involved. So Rizzo, let's talk about this for a minute, because here's my question for you. Because we are going to talk about fan films tonight, and you and I are both involved in fan films. When you have a juggernaut franchise, a Harry Potter, a Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Star Trek, even Doctor Who has fan films. The fans are going to do what the fans are going to do. They're going to do it. So, is it in the franchises, do you think, Rizzo, is it in the franchise's best interest to allow the fans some kind of sanctioned creative outlet, a safe space, an arena, some place where they can do all their creative
absolutely. I think it not only is it smart to embrace fan films, fan fiction, fan art, whatever you want to call it, rather than try to drop a hammer, which really, in my opinion, just really alienates your family. These are the people that they're giving you money by coming to see your films, buying your product, buying everything. We used to always joke around, you could slap a Star Trek, Delta on a dog shit and people would buy it because, it's got Star Trek logo on it. That goes for any fandom. I don't care what it is. We see it with when I was, Jeeping. Anything that had the word Jeep on it, people would buy it, because they're into Jeeps. So, it's not just FanDuel. So me, to my mind, it's short-sighted to try to shut that down. I think what Lord George Lucas did early on with the Star Wars fan films and having the contest, laying out some very specific rules of how to do it. This is what we allow. This is what we don't allow. This is where you have to get your costumes from or whatever. You have to make them, all those rules that seem kind of heavy-handed, but it allowed people to say, okay, as long as I stay within this, I could do whatever I want. Paramount finally kind of saw that after the whole Hypnotoad, that's who our code name for that person. After the Hypnotoad suit and all that, they realized, but they're still not rules, they're guidelines. And remember what Paramount said is, if you stay within this, we won't sue you or won't cease and desist you. If you go outside these, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get sued. It's just you might.
Exactly.
So, absolutely, I think it's you might as well embrace it, as long as it doesn't become, you have to police it. There's still some offensive stuff probably that people do with a franchise that, it parodies, and that's where it gets that weird. Is it a parody? Is it now considered
for that? Yeah, it's always going to be that. Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. I think it's smart for any franchise owner to embrace that kind of thing for the fans. I think it's good for PR at its base level. And it also gives you certain control over what's out there.
Also, making money off of this stuff. It spawns amazing new creators. One of the ones I'm going to talk about tonight, Lucas in Love, is done by a guy named Joe Nussbaum. He went on to have a career because of this fan film. He went on to have a career in Hollywood. Yeah, Doc, the major studios should put a safe space for fan films, and I think fan fiction as well, and help distribute them, which increases the base. Absolutely, I agree. I feel like, while I appreciate Paramount's efforts, I feel like they were a little too restrictive. They came down on us a little hard.
Well, I don't know if they really didn't. I mean, I think there was
15 minutes. It had to be 15 minutes. Although now that I say that, all of my favorite Star Wars ones are like 4, 5, 6 minutes. So
first of all, I think that's important point. I think the better ones always seem to be the shortest ones.
That's true.
And I think that's because we know how expensive it is to produce anything of quality. And especially now, a lot of these I noticed are CGI, which is totally, they're using Unreal Engine and stuff like that to create this stuff. But the voice work still has to be there. The sound effects still has to be there, and so and the artwork still has to be there. I can't do stuff just the software and make, Unreal Engine just because I have the software to make these things. So, and there still needs to be the creative script in the first place. You still need somebody to write this stuff. Of course, now they have AI, but we don't. So, but I find that and my attention span is, I have about of a flea. So
would you be interested if Paramount said, hey guys, the Star Wars awards, we're going to do something like that for Star Trek. Would you would you attempt it? Would you be interested?
With me personally? No.
Well, us as us, all of us.
Well, if there was a group doing it, sure, I would like to be involved. It's not something that I'm going to go out and try to raise money for and crowdfunding. And that's what, as we know, what happened with Star Trek is the crowdfunding got out of control.
It did. The other, yes, you're absolutely right. The crowdfunding and the kickstarting and all that got absolutely out of control. The other thing when I was saying that they came down on us a little hard is that in the rules, we had to use license. We had to use licensed stuff.
Yeah, that was that was in part of the guidelines was you had to buy.
You got to buy all the licenses yourself.
Yeah. I think you could still make it, but you had to either make it yourself or buy it from a licensed vendor. You couldn't go to an Etsy shop and buy somebody's uniforms. I think that's what they were saying.
Yeah.
Because they want to curb. Because I know several people who were doing stuff. They're very careful on things like Etsy, creating props and uniforms and stuff like that, and they'll say, "Oh, it's a science fiction uniform. It's not." Because if they call it a Star Trek uniform, then now you just stepped on Paramount's toes. So yeah, it's interesting. The rules they have, but I think they're also, but again, they're trying to protect their licensees, that people that paid money to make this stuff and sell it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I get what they're doing, as long as I think they do it with the way that the fans are being included and being respected, and that they, because they should really look at some of this stuff, because some of them, the storylines are better than what the studios put.
You said before we started filming, you said, I got to tell you, I think the Star Wars fan films are better than the Star Trek fan films. And I said, no argument for me. Yeah. I agree. I don't know what it is, that I can't put my finger on exactly what it is. That
the problem I see with Star Trek, and I'm probably going to offend some people by saying, because I said it to you.
Your show. You're allowed to say what you want on your own show.
I know, but I don't want to. But I mean, and we worked on the fan film, so I'm talking from a place of a certain position. But all the ones I see, aside from the fact that the acting is generally horrendous. Now, towards the end of New Voyages, we were getting professional actors to play some of the key roles, so that was improving. But I don't see that now with some of the other groups that are still producing. And I don't want to I'm not poking fun at these guys, because as we always said, we were there to have fun making. We weren't there for the end product. We were there for the fun of making it. And I get that. But I have some friends that'll send me, oh, hey, did you see so-and-so productions? They just finished this Star Trek. And it's usually the TOS ones that are the worst. But I'm sorry, there's a bunch of guys in ill-fitting uniforms that are overweight and too old, and just they're playing Star Trek, and it's not working for me.
Star Trek dream. Let them live their Star Trek dream. I can't.
It's fine. And again, I'm not saying they shouldn't make them. I'm not saying they shouldn't be making them. All I'm saying is they're bad, and they need to acknowledge the fact they're bad. And the editing,
I don't know.
Nobody knows how to edit. Even the biggest gripe I had with New Voyages when I saw our stuff done, I always felt the editing needed to be a lot tighter. There should not be, the original series episodes, even in their original form, were like 54 minutes. And we were running episodes without commercials, mind you, 104, 100 minutes.
The fan films are making bigger episodes than the original thing.
There's a reason you tighten it up. You don't need all this dead space between you just.
Yeah, Doc is saying Colley's productions were fantastic. Doc, we poured our heart and soul.
They were great. They were great for what they were. But you have
to. They were great for what they were.
You have to admit, if you saw them on TV, you'd be like, "What is?"
Oh yeah, no. If you saw them on TV, you'd be freaking out. Yeah. We poured our heart and soul into those, and we did the best we could, given that most of us were completely inexperienced. And I will just tell you my little story. People sometimes ask, how did you ever get involved in this? And I tell them this story. I found James's episodes on YouTube or somewhere, and I'm watching, and I'm like, who are these people making Star Trek? And I find the website, and one day I'm like stalking the website like a crazy deranged person. And one day on the website, down at the very bottom, it said volunteers needed for the fall shoot. And it said those 3 magic words: no experience necessary.
Yep. Mine was a similar story.
None of us knew anything. Well, you already had experience. You already had experience in television. Most of us who showed up were complete blithering idiots with fingers up our noses. We had no idea what we were doing, and we learned as we did it.
I've told you that when I first came up shooting, because I had.
Yes, you said you people are idiots.
Years of studio production experience, and I came up and I started doing stuff, and I'm like,
Rizzo was horrified at what he saw.
Well, it was.
And how he ever came back again, I don't know.
Don't get me wrong. I was horrified in the sense of it was the disorganization level of it. And I kept saying it because I was.
And yet you're still here.
And yeah, well, it was fun because I made a lot of good friends, and I'm not saying, I don't want to say it was. It was just I kept saying, I'm like, if this is a real production, you need to be bankrupt in like 2 days, because the union overages and meal penalties and everything else, and redoing stuff and working 18, 20 hours, was just like, you'd go bankrupt. You wouldn't be able to afford the crew. That's all I was pointing out. But yeah, but for the most part, I was impressed with the fact that it was put together, considering it was all volunteers. The scope of it was impressive.
Every episode was blood, sweat, and tears, and mostly tears.
Yeah. So anyway, we're not here to talk about Star Trek fan films. We're here to talk about
Star Trek fan films.
Drink, though. I want to put that up. So our drink is the Dark Side Martini.
Great choice.
Black or light rum. I don't know why you wouldn't use the dark rum, but cream de cocoa and some food color to make it black. Pretty simple. And then, of course, some sugar on the rim, and you can make that black too. So why not? Cream black rum and cream de cocoa. Yeah, it's probably a little coffee flavored rum, kind of nice kind of thing going on there. That might be good. Anyway, there it is. So, I'm just trying to read.
How do you want to do this? I have a top three. Do you want me to give my three and yours three, and my two and your two?
Let's start back in 1978.
Let's start at the very beginning.
We're going to start at the beginning because I think we have to start with Hardware Wars.
Hardware Wars, yes.
So those of you who have not seen it, this came out literally like right after Star Wars did. Like, I don't know how they did it so fast. But basically,
it did
a parody.
A lot of people were like, even the Muppet Show did a little Star Wars.
They were
right
after. This was again some goofballs that decided to produce this thing.
Yeah.
The point is that it's a parody, and that's how I think they got away with a lot. It clearly was a parody. I mean, the ships were all like an iron and an egg beater, hand crank egg beater thing, and all the stuff. And of course, they had all the characters there as different names and stuff like that. And it was really just the whole thing was 12-minute promo for the movie that never was made. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it kind of started, because all of us, even as kids, knew Hardware Wars. We all were aware of it, even, which is interesting because we didn't have the internet. Like, how did this thing get distributed?
They're on TV.
It was.
How did we all see
I don't even know. That's a good question because I don't remember. I do remember seeing it, but how did I see it? It must have been on television. Somebody must have picked it up and aired it, I guess. But what the thing was is what that kind of thing sparked, at least for me, and I think a lot of people would agree with me. When we were kids, we started making, and this is kind of like going back to like Patrick Reed Johnson when he saw 2001. We all started wanting to make, and I remember I took a film class in junior high. So I was in the 7th or 8th grade, and we had a film class, and every kid, we're all doing the spaceship through the this is after Empire, of course, came out through the asteroid field, you know, and then we had all the little rocks hanging from strings, and we took on 8mm film, and we were making these things. And I wish to God I had these films that we made. You know, we used to we didn't have way to do blue screen, so you know, we literally made our little diorama and flew the ship through on a string or something, the old way. And then when with the film to make the laser bolts, we literally took the film and scratched a line in it so that it was just, there's no film there.
Yeah.
So it was like a white. So that's how we did it. But it was those were fan films. You know, those were the early fan films. And then, you know, the next thing I think once I got to be an adult was in the mid to late 90s when Troops came out and that we had the internet there.
Some of these went viral, or what passed for viral back then, because even back then
others, I'm sure there probably were, but Troops was the one I remember seeing it, and it was,
I remember seeing Troops.
You had to download it, and it was like 25 megabytes or 95 megabytes. And it took
like all day, right?
I had dial-up. And I remember setting it and coming back, like, you know, at night and coming back the next morning, and it's at 85%. Oh, I gotta wait. You know, it was download, and then it would fail, and it wouldn't, you know, like now that you could usually pick it up. No, you got to start all over again to finally download that thing so I could watch. What is it, like 5-8 minutes of it? Because you can, of course, watch it on YouTube, and if you've never seen Troops, you have, because those who haven't seen it, it's based on the old 90s TV show called Cops, and it was where these crews follow cops around. Of course, in this case, they're following around.
It's so funny,
troopers, and it's very funny, and it's done really well. And you know, aside from the fact that it's standard definition, it holds up. Yeah, your mic, I don't know why, is dropping in and out. You can see your lips, no talking.
You can't hear me.
Now I can when you lean forward.
Weird. Okay. Well, just as well because I'm coughing half the time anyway. Yes, keep going. Troops does hold up today. Keep going. Yes.
Does. And the thing was, and it's funny, and I think I like those type of fan films. I mean, the serious ones are great, but they're hard to pull off. You know what I'm saying? I think to make them really work and to go, wow, that was really good. There are some good ones. I posted some of them. There's a lot of good ones. There's so many I couldn't even. I was watching fan film after fan film, and I got locked mostly into the AFK ones, which are the ones that they're about these two stormtroopers. They're very funny, and which is what my TKFKU, which is so there's TKFTU, TKFNG for obviously F and new guy, and then TK. What was her 69? What's the moment?
Yeah, the girl is
She's like, yeah, I've heard all the jokes.
AFK ones are really good.
So that's what
you can go down a rabbit hole with them.
Like one of the ones I think is in the graphic was called Rebel Scum, which I thought was it's several years old now. Again, it's a post Battle of Hoth out in the snow, done really well. I thought it was just done excellently. And I haven't gone through. I'm sure we could look through, and I never really looked at what Lucas the award winners were.
Oh, so some of mine are award winners. So you want me to just kind of breeze through my honorable mentions or breeze through my top 3? How do you want me to do this?
However you want to do it.
I'll breeze through the honorable mentions first because that's how I'm feeling tonight. So Ken wanted us. We mentioned Hardware Wars already as one of the earliest. We mentioned Troops. There was one called Jedi Hunter, which was done in the style of Crocodile Hunter. And it was Boba Fett. And he was talking with this heavy Australian accent, which is kind of hilarious since Boba Fett. And this was done like before we ever met. God, his name is going right out of my head. What's his name that plays Boba?
Oh, Jeremy.
The actor. He's Aussie or Kiwi and he has the accent. But anyway, the point is, they were doing the accent before we knew it was the accent. Escape from Tatooine was a really good one. Lucas in Love is a really great one. That's done by Joe Nussbaum, who went on to have a career in Hollywood due to this fan film. Chad Vader is one that portrays if Vader was like a grocery store manager, and that one goes on for like 4 seasons. It's hilarious. Pink 5 is really, really cute. Those are some of my honorable mentions, but my top 3. In the 3rd spot, the 2002 Audience Choice Award. Now, Rizzo, you disagreed with that. You didn't think it was that cool, but I enjoyed Star Wars Gangsta Rap. That's the one that will have you walking down the halls where you work going, I got Death Star. I got Death Star. I got Death Star. Like you will start singing it.
It didn't work for me.
It'll get in your head and it won't come out. My number 2 is the 2002 George Lucas Selects Award, which is the top prize. So every year, starting in 2002, actually, George Lucas said, okay, we're going to have the official Star Wars Fan Film Awards. We're doing this. And they would give all different prizes for different things. And they would do the Pioneer Award and the Spirit of Fandom Award and the best animation and the best this and the best that. And the top award was the George Lucas Select Awards. And in 2002, it was Christmas Tauntauns, which, you guys, it's just a short little song. It's just a short, cute little song. And literally the lyrics of the song is she's like, when I was a little kid and I went to see Santa and he asked me what I wanted, I said, I want Christmas playing with plastic Tauntauns, Christmas with my Millennium Falcon. I want to watch Star Wars on repeat. I want to play with my little figures. I want Christmas a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Was that not us for like a good couple years there? You guys might be a little old, but my age and younger, that's what they wanted. That's all they wanted.
Yeah.
Like in the 80s.
Yeah, because I was, again, the generation, I was 10 when the first movie came out.
Yeah.
And of course, we've talked about how Kenner couldn't get the toys out in time for Christmas. So they sold the parents the voucher that it was promising your kid that we would get the first 5, whatever it was. It was like Luke and the 2 droids and
exactly
Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, I think. I don't remember, maybe Princess Leia and Han Solo. But, so yeah, I mean, there were many Christmases where that's all that was on the list was Star Wars toys. To Kenner stuff. Where Kenner, and I don't want to get off too up top, where I always felt Kenner went off the rails, and I think if you watch some of the toys that made us and stuff like that, where Kenner went off the rails when they started making toys that were never in the movies.
Yeah, I agree.
They started
Completely
making
agree.
vehicles and stuff that were like not ever in the film. We're like, what is
Cash,
this thing?
unfortunately, Cash Grab has been with us since the
Yeah, well, I
dawn of
think
time.
they were struggling. They were a small company, and I think they were starting to struggle with it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
My number one pick. Yeah, my number one pick is the 2005. It's 2005. Let me look. It is indeed. My number one pick is the 2005 George Lucas Selects winner, and it's called For the Love of the Film. And it's by Barry Curtis and Troy Metcalf. Guys, just go watch this thing. It is the sweetest little movie. The story is a bunch of people have gone to a theater to watch Star Wars. They're all sitting in the seats, and the movie starts playing, but pretty quick into the movie, the film breaks. You know, like you see the, you know, and they're all, yeah, and they're throwing popcorn at the screen and they're all yelling. And the usher comes out and he's like, it's okay, we're gonna get it figured out, it's gonna get figured out. And they're still yelling, and he just puts his hand up and he's like, what is the line? Like,
yeah,
well, you must, if you're to come with me to Alderaan, or if you're to come with me to Mos Eisley or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other usher comes out and gives Luke's line. And next thing you know, they're doing it. And then
of course.
yeah, exactly. And then everyone's sitting there and there's silence, and everyone's like, what's going on? And finally one guy in the audience stands up and gives the Han Solo line.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like Dustin Crops, kid.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, and then next thing you know, everyone in the theater has like chosen a role, and they're all like, this one girl does does Chewie, and there are two, and they have a Princess Leia, and they all act it out. They know this film. They know this film by heart. They don't need to see the film on the screen. They're gonna act. They don't. They know it word for word. And you know what, you guys? So do we. We should do that as an experiment at Trek-Ticonderoga.
You can come down off the balcony there a little bit.
No, come on. I think it's true. I love this movie so much.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I am not disagreeing with you at all. I agree. I had, and like many of you guys did, I had the LP, Star Wars story.
And we listened to it.
And I listened to it. And, you know, we all so funny because I knew it verbatim. And not only that, you know, when you heard certain music, the time to do that was when they, you know, the Millennium Falcon was getting pulled into the Death Star, time to flip the record over. That was the side one. And I literally wore that copy I had out. I mean, it was probably, my mother, I think, gave it to me for my birthday or something. And I think it was like the best gift like I ever got, because my sisters were ready to murder me. They're like, if you play that record one more time, I'm going to kill you.
At the end of the film, they go through the whole movie, and at the end, this older couple that are sitting up the back stand up, and they're clapping like really enthusiastically. And the old man leans in, and he's like, "This gets better and better every time we come to see it." So they've been doing this over and over again. But it just, to me,
like Rocky Horror,
kind of. But to me, it's like, you know, guys, could we actually do that with anything in Star Trek? Recite the entire thing word for word.
You know, the closest would be Wrath of Khan, and not the whole movie.
Maybe Wrath of Khan.
It would be certain words from it, and there's
maybe certain POS.
Star Trek, it would be certain scenes, certain
scenes, but not
the
entire.
That's why we're aboard her speech. You know, risk is our business. You know,
exactly.
That's like probably the best speech in all of Star Trekdom. You know,
probably, yeah.
So we know that, but you're right. We don't know those movies verbatim, like
know
Star Wars, especially
me, and everyone watching out there tonight knows Star Wars: A New Hope word for word. I know we do, and if we were all together in the room, I bet we could all recite it. I know we could.
People always say that, you know, like when I do Star Wars, and they're like, "Oh, I figured, you know, you're because I'm so involved with the set tour, you know, Star Trek." I'm like, "Don't, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, always will be, but Star Wars is really." That's
because for most of us,
that's what was my life-changing moment, was seeing.
Because for most of us, it was first.
It was epic. Well, I'd seen Star Trek before, for years.
I probably had seen it on TV, but
it didn't really have as huge an impact as seeing Star Wars in 1977 on that big screen.
Exactly.
Sorry for those that are big Star Trek fans, and you know, it's that battle. There are those of us that can have feet in both worlds.
Bill's arguing that he thinks he does know some Star Trek episodes by heart. You might.
Well,
let me know. You guys want to try that as a Trek-Ticonderoga experiment to see if we actually could recite all of Star Wars just by memory? I bet we could.
I bet you. Well, there was a time. I will admit, I'm sure a lot of it has faded. I used to be able to do it. I used to be able to do it with Ferris Bueller. I've seen that movie.
It won't. It'll
could do
trigger.
that.
Like the lines will trigger, and they'll just come.
We're gonna get up. We're gonna get up on the stage. You're gonna set time on, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna have everybody have their lines.
No,
I don't know how you're gonna organize
no.
that. That could be a nightmare. A lot of people.
That could be a nightmare. No, I'm not. It's not even gonna be that organized. I'm just gonna be like, hey guys, what do you think? Can we do it? Let's start the movie and turn the sound off and see if everybody can just chant along with it.
Oh, easily.
But anyway, that's my number one pick.
Yeah, with the film going, easily, I could do it.
Easily, yeah. Easily. That's my number one pick for Star Wars fan films. I love that little fan film. It's maybe 5
it was very cute.
minutes long.
No, I'll give you that one.
It's short, and I think it truly captures what all of us are feeling. We all love this movie so much. It's that we can all say the entire thing by heart.
Yeah. It's funny because I didn't really look at it as a fan film because it was it was like
not about Star Wars. It
was an appreciation film, kind of not.
Yeah, it was like a fan appreciation film.
It's
because think about it. What do we memorize in its entirety anymore? Maybe in the old days, like in the olden days, people had to memorize Bible verses and crap.
Wait a minute, old man yells at cloud. But we have too much. There's too much media. We're exposed to so much stuff all day, every day. It's just too much. Like we've talked about this before with Star Wars. It's like we got to see it in the theater. It ran for like a year in the theater because it was so popular. I don't think any movie's done that even come close. It may not be the highest grossing movie of all time, but it's got to be one of the movies that ran consecutive days in a theater. There's got to be a metric for that. But once it was gone, it was gone. Anything you could get to the record. The record is why I listen to that record so much because it's all I had. It's all I had.
That and like the picture book.
And the picture books, our pictures. That's it. And the toys.
And the toys. That's all you had.
Nowadays the movie comes out 2 months later. It's on digital. You can get on Blu-ray, whatever. Everything is too accessible.
The fact that we still memorized it anyway. Lines. Like it was such an impression on us that we walked out of the theater repeating some of those lines.
Well, I'd seen it in the theater probably more times than most people.
So. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you had an edge on all of us. But I guarantee everyone walked out of that theater knowing some of those lines. Because it just made such an impression on our brains. So those are my top 3. Rizzo, what are yours? What are your favorite?
I think I loved Rebel Scum. I loved No Disintegrations, which was again it's you remember the line in Empire when they have all the bounty hunters on the Star Destroyer, they're kind of and Invader comes in and they're sending him off to go find Han Solo, and because ultimately he wants Luke Skywalker, and he goes to Boba Fett and he goes, and no disintegrations. So it's the backstory for that. It's a live action, it's not animated, and it's basically these bounty hunters are meeting in a bar, and they start talking about why Vader said that to him about no disintegrations, and they show the story and that he accidentally vaporizes 2 rebel spies that he was supposed to bring back to Vader, but he couldn't because they were dust and he didn't get paid.
No. This one is
that's called No Disintegrations. Rebel Scum was the one where it's after the Battle of Hoth, and there's a rebel pilot who's trying to escape, and he ends up lost in the snow or something, and he meets another a stormtrooper, and he's trying to avoid them, and it's not to go into the whole details. It's a short, but it's really well made, and I think it won one of the ones about 5 or maybe 6 or 7 years ago, one of the awards, I think. So that was one. But really, my real favorites that I just enjoy watching are the AFK for the Empire series that are just hysterical. That's they're a little crass at times, but they do.
They're short.
They're short, but then you can watch
viral.
Them, like
if guys aren't sure what this is. They were sitting in the they were in a troop carrier waiting to go. They were all sitting and their legs were dangling, and the one guy starts singing the Imperial March or something, and the guys are telling him to shut up. That one went viral, and I think I'd seen that one first for some reason.
The first
a while back, like some years back.
It's called New Guy or something like that, or First Day,
or maybe,
something like
yeah.
that. And he's the one guy who's the kind of he's the FNG. He's running up and he's late because he's like, oh man, I was tying one on last night, this local alcohol stuff. While he's going, he's talking, and the other troopers are sitting there, and he's like, he goes, and forgive me, he goes, hey, man, I forgot to powder my balls. You're really chafing these things. and then the other trooper talks, and it's clearly a woman, and he's like, oh, she's like, well, I don't really have balls. And of course she's the one who's TK669. So which he's like, yeah, I've heard all the jokes. She's like, and they have their little thing, and it's funny because he's got his, like, he calls it, what's he called, Palpatine pod or something in his helmet, to play music. He's like, so there's that one, but then there's the sergeant like character who's the TKFKU, and he's very serious, and then this other guy's a goofball, and they just have their little adventures, but they're always silly.
The guys were acting it out, I noticed. Sometimes, little silly things like they were guarding Art, the statues, and he knocks the statue down and breaks it, and just little things. But then other ones are like really clever.
Yeah, and then they get in a battle. And they end up the end of season 2 is they end up getting away because they're going to get, the Empire. Well, we're losing, so we're just going to completely waste the planet. And, so they get this order, what they call Crimson Order or whatever. And they're like, we got to get out of here. And they end up stealing not stealing, but they find a huge AT-AT that nobody's using. And they're trying to drive this thing out of the blast zone, it was funny. So if you like humor with your Star Wars, I highly recommend it. Yeah, they do other stuff than just Star Wars. They did some like orc stuff from what's the online online fantasy playing game. I can't think of it. Not Skyrim, but it's like that.
Yeah, guys, again, Rizzo put a link to this on the Sci-Fi. Just go check it out. It's worth it. It's a rabbit hole. Like, you'll be watching YouTube for an hour, but it's funny.
Go to YouTube, put in Star Wars fan film, and because there's another one. Some of the other ones, like, there's a couple of X-Wing ones that, again, they're all CGI, but they're really done well.
The other one you put up was TIE Fighter Remastered, and that was a gorgeous anime done.
Style, yes. Go ahead.
Very much like Robotech or any of those classic anime, beautifully drawn. And it's from the TIE Fighter point of view. I enjoyed that one quite a bit. And done very, very Japanese. Like, where,
the best ones are done from the point of view of the Empire rather than the rebellion.
I noticed that.
They seem to be the best, funniest ones.
That is a great point. They are funnier. The ones I like are all fan appreciation ones, but the ones that actually have story content in them, the Empire ones are cuter. There was an Escape from Tatooine that was rebels running around, but I don't remember what they did. Yeah, I don't know, man. That's an interesting observation.
They all kind of ran together. I watched so
we should start making like Borg. Like, we could do that only as Borg if we wanted to do Star Trek ones, like little short Borg, like two little Borg drones run around talking to each other.
Has somebody done that? That would be
so funny.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably come up with some rather humorous stuff from the Borg. Especially being a collective.
Or who else? Who else are our baddies in Trek?
Well, we had Klingon K-pop.
Oh yeah, we've already Klingon. We could do a Klingon one. But they kind of did. Remember in Lower Decks when they had that mystery ship that was running around killing other ships, they would always show what these conversations, the Lower Decks conversations on the other ships. Yeah. To me, that is like what our Star Trek fan film would be.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You take it from that standpoint of than the heroes. It's the little guy that we never hear from, which is what the AFK ones. These are just two stormtroopers they don't know the whole scheme of things,
So they're just trying to like bumble through as best they can. Yeah.
Exactly.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about is, did you have any more that you wanted to tell us about before I shift gears?
Go ahead. No, shift gears.
What I wanted to ask you is, did you see any of the Star Wars Visions on Disney Plus? And do you feel like those are just another extension of fan films? They're just fan films done by professionals.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly could make that argument. where I don't know what Disney when they decided to create those, what the thinking was, whether it was somebody went in and pitched, said, hey, I really like to do this
anthology of like random
thing on blah blah blah. It's kind of like with Marvel with the What If. That's
exactly
like a fan film type of
yes,
thing.
It was very What If-esque. Yeah.
What If, What If there's a new season of that, by the way, underway.
I need to watch it.
I have not watched it yet, but yeah, the first season was really good. So, and yeah, you're right. And even like Lower Decks in some ways almost feels like a fan film because although I know the writers aren't necessarily Star Trek fans, they are kind of being guided by a Star Trek fan with Dayton.
I think McMahon is a fan. Maybe the writers aren't, but I think the writers are. But anyway, back to Visions.
Yeah. So I agree. I mean, one could make the argument, but again, I don't know for fact that if that is in fact that somebody pitched it to them.
I don't know that either, but as I looked at the quality of and the nature of each little Visions episode, like little they're just little tidbits. They weren't anything big. I was like, God, these are just glorified fan films.
One can make the argument if you're going to go there that The Mandalorian was a fan film. It was Jon Favreau's fan film.
Jon Favreau's and Filoni's fan film.
Fan film series. You're right.
When you start getting paid for it, no longer a fan film.
Look at that. It's a great thing. You look at some of these ones that people have done that have no professional, or at least maybe they did, or that's not clearly they're doing it for nonprofit reasons. They've raised money. They did the costumes. They shot the thing. They did whatever. They've done all this, and it's kind of the same thing. It's just the difference is that Favreau had the might of Disney behind him and able to, and his other accomplishments to pitch it. So think about if other people were like somebody of establishment and say, I want to do this. It's their passion that comes through. That's my point. I'm saying? Favreau loves Star Wars. Fellini loves Star Wars, and it goes through. It's like when Mike and Denise and Doug get involved in Star Trek, we see it. All of a sudden the level goes, the improvement shoots right.
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely.
It's important that these people, whoever's working on it, and I know it's impossible for everything, but that they have a certain roots in the franchise, that they have some investment in it.
Fans don't necessarily have roots, but their love still shines through.
They're invested, and they understand.
Yeah, they're invested. Yeah,
they understand.
Bill is asking, is Spaceballs a fan film done by pros? And Bill, you could argue yes.
Spaceballs, it was, that's a Mel Brooks film.
Yeah, it's Mel Brooks.
It's Mel Brooks, and Mel Brooks always does parody.
It is a parody.
It was just a time, I think, when Mel Brooks decided it was time for a space parody. There's clearly they pull from, yes, it's a lot of Star Wars.
They had little touches of a few other things in there too.
But there was other little things. There clearly was some Alien in there, other stuff like that. So, is it a fan film? No, I wouldn't call it a fan film. I would call that a parody.
Anyone realizes something's big enough to be parodied? Well, yeah, maybe you're right, Rizzo. Maybe it's just because it was so big, it had to be parodied. But we haven't seen a Lord of the Rings parody. Have we? Did I miss the Lord of the Rings parody?
Well, you look at Mel Brooks, everything he's done from Blazing Saddles and High Anxiety was a parody of all the Hitchcock films.
Yeah,
Blazing Saddle, parody of all the westerns.
Yeah, that's just his genre. Then he's like the Weird Al Yankovic. He is to film as Weird Al is to music. So
yeah. So I mean, and now I know a lot of people didn't like that movie. I think it's not. It has some definite strong points in it. We've done Spaceballs, so
yeah, we did Spaceballs.
Is it the greatest Mel Brooks movie? No, not by far. Young Frankenstein,
Frankenstein, which we've also done on this show.
Which Young Frankenstein, I think, is still his best.
Or we did it on Roy's show. I don't remember which.
We did it on Roy's for Halloween. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, no. So I wouldn't necessarily call that Lord of the Rings parody. Martin saying is out there.
It might be. So, guys, go ahead and put. Are there any other fan films, not necessarily Star Wars, but are there any other fan films that you think we should be checking out? Am I missing out on something really cool that I don't know about?
There's only so much time in the day.
There's only so much time in the day, but I don't mind unwinding at night with a little.
It's a little slightly off topic, but I just recently watched Rebel Moon.
I did too. What did you think about it?
There's definitely a very strong. I could see where people were talking where you could easily flip a switch and make it Star Wars.
Yep.
Change it around, Empire.
Yes, it started as a Star Wars script.
You
Yes.
You know what I saw in that film? At least for the first, I know this is part one. It was Battle of the Planets. Not Battle of the Planets, Battle Beyond the Stars. With John Boy there.
Yes, I know exactly what
Think about it. They had the little farming community. The baddies come, they're going to take over the farming community. A couple people go off into space to go get mercenaries to come back and help them fight the baddies. I'm like, it's Battle Beyond the Stars.
I got to tell you, it's getting it's getting panned by critics are not liking it. Most people who watched it did not like it, and I have to tell you, it didn't hold my attention. Like if I'm watching a new movie and I find myself on my phone a lot, that's bad.
Right, The Magnificent Seven.
That's bad.
That's true, Martin. That's what that was based on. Yeah. Did I hate it? No.
But did you love it?
Did it hold my interest enough? But it was fairly predictable, I guess.
Yes, it was very predictable.
Less than, I guess, the end. There was a few little curves, but the actions, you know, they to me, like I think my wife pointed out, she's like a little bit too much of the slow-mo fight scene stuff, you know. Yeah, I don't know. We got Anthony Hopkins to voice the robot, so that's something.
Hopkins to voice the robot.
So there is going to be a 2. We'll see. I'll probably watch.
Yeah, this must be a 2 and a 3. I would have done. I watched it so you don't have to. And honestly, my review would have been you don't have to. What would your review have been?
If you got nothing better to do. I would like, if you're really looking for some sci-fi to watch and you want something that has some action to it, not a lot of things going on.
It's free on Netflix, guys. But you know what, guys? Netflix is
it's 2 hours. Crap on I think it probably could have been an hour and a half, and I would have been okay with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what it was. It just seemed to just go on and on. I was like, come on, guys, let's get to it here.
Yeah, the main character, she's kind of like, I don't know. There's a weird.
She really changes when she's in one persona. Like when she's they
don't really give you much backstory of how she really ends up at the farming community in the first place and how she's by the older guy. Like there's a big gap there as to why she's there as opposed. But I don't want to talk about that all night either. But yeah, it's okay. I give it an okay.
Yeah.
Agreed. I wouldn't like run out to go see it. Like you got to see it's the best thing since sliced bread. No, definitely not.
No.
But it wasn't. I thought it was okay. I give it a half a thumbs up. I don't know. We giving ratings now? Half a cocktail. 5.
Yeah, we did cocktail.
It's a 2.5 out of 5 cocktails.
Out of 5 cocktails. Yeah, that's about what I'd give it to. It just didn't hold my attention. Like when I find myself scrolling on my phone during a brand new movie I've never seen before, that's bad. That's bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why it didn't hold me. I just
There's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, of course, you know, as we're getting near the end of the 4th season of For All Mankind. Great,
which is fabulous.
Great. Now there's
that holds my attention. That holds my attention every week.
Yeah. Hold your attention. I finally I figured out how to listen to the Russian thing on my particular set.
Yeah, you got to turn on the
subtitle thing, but yeah, really, really good. I think I'm a little. The thing with For All Mankind, I'm a little bit okay. The whole thing with this mutiny, or not the mutiny, but the strike. I'm sorry, spoilers, but the strike thing, and then they're going to try to do this other thing with the.
No, I haven't. Yeah, don't spoil me. I haven't just seen this.
Oh, okay.
One. So that's okay. But I did see the strike.
Seems to be getting a little kind of crazy.
It is a little crazy. Did you think Danielle was out of character during the strike? Because she was like, yeah, no, get them their satellites so they can communicate. Like Danielle has always been like, I don't know. Like I thought she would have been like, you know. And so then when they're like, hey, pay us our money, she was like, no. And I was like, Danielle, that's a weird thing. There's like you, girl.
That's the thing that's weird is you have like NASA and the government's in charge, but then Helios as a private contractor is backfilling in the lower end workers. I just don't see it happening like that.
Me neither.
I see that you have a government operation. You have a government operation. Maybe I'm wrong, you know, but I think if you had a mining facility that was set up, it would be Helios only. and there might be some government oversight, but there wouldn't be this weird, these guys are astronauts and they're like, and then there's and
the other thing, the strike episode, they wrote that episode so that it was screaming. The entire episode screamed at you. Pay them. Just pay them.
Yeah.
Pay them what they're worth.
Didn't make any sense is they were changing their contract halfway through their contract. Like,
that was the other thing.
So it was like, okay, that's really kind of that's part of the reason I was starting to get kind of getting off the rails here. Like, why would you got people that they cannot quit? So you're really going to be that evil corporation?
Yeah, so you're going to do that to them?
You're really going to do
that? But you know what? We're seeing some whack ass shit go down in real life. So
I mean, it's true. I just, and they know they're trying to some stuff. But
let me catch up on this last episode, and we will recap this season when this season ends.
But anyway, regardless, if you've never seen the show at all, please go watch it.
Go watch it. Phil, I was just talking to Phil to find out what he wanted me to promote tonight, and he was saying how much he loved For All Mankind. So maybe, we'll have him on to chat about it.
So the other thing I don't know if you're aware of, but this was released just recently, which is the Lower Decks Crew Handbook.
Very nice. I love it. Who is officially the author of that, technically?
The author is Chris Farnell.
Okay.
I don't recognize the name, but it's all...
that way.
So you get it's just all course done in the style.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I haven't really had time. I did get it as a Christmas gift.
Love it.
It's got Badgie's in there. So yeah, just thought I'd
mention Badgie, good.
Not aware. It kind of was under the radar.
I didn't.
So if you like Lower Decks, you might like the Lower Decks Crew Handbook. So, all right. So, wrapping this thing up, it is close to the hour. I can just say, guys, go out there and just look at these fan films if you haven't already. Some of them are epic, and feel free to go and post on our site. If you find a really good one or that you like, because there's just too many. There's just too many.
The official Star Wars Fan Films Awards started in 2002. They ran till 2018 or 2019, and I'm not sure if they are still going now. But if you go to Wikipedia, you can see all those winners.
Yeah, I don't know when Disney kind of took over Lucasfilms.
I think that was the end of that, which brings us right back to the conversation we had at the top of the show. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the argument. Has Disney been good for or bad for the franchise? I think overall, I would say bad.
Bad. I agree, bad.
But, let's face it, George did some stuff that kind of screwed things up, too. So
George wasn't good either, but at least he let the fans have fan films, and he awarded some of them, so whatever.
Right. And honestly, with any of this stuff, whether it be Star Trek, Star Wars, name a thing, I always have the original thing that I fell in love with to watch, although George took that away from us just by re-editing them. But with some ingenuity, you can find the original cut online, which I did from 1977. So all is well.
Nice. That's excellent. Someone will just edit it back. That's how advanced we are now. We'll just edit it back to what
Disney could make a ton of money if maybe that was part of the contract, if they would just say,
hey, and here's a special edition.
Here's the special edition 1977 original.
Shooting nerds in a barrel. We would all be like, shut up and take my money.
Exactly. I'd be like, take my money. And this whole thing, by the way, guys, we kind of mentioned it, but with Sony kind of brought it with the PS5 or PlayStation. If you had bought it, you were aware of this. We did mention, I think, if you had bought a movie through the PlayStation Store, some of them were going away. Like all of a sudden, if you bought the movie, it wasn't a rental. You bought the movie, and then whatever happened, Sony decided they didn't want to renew the licenses on certain films or whatever, and so they said, "Well, yeah, you bought it, but you don't get it anymore because we're not paying the license." Well, there was a huge blowback over that. They're saying, "Wait a minute, that's BS. We paid for it. It's ours mostly forever until you disintegrate as a company." And they backpedaled and they said, yeah, okay, whatever. They must have figured out a deal. So moral of the story is, if you love something and you want a copy of it, go buy the Blu-ray or the DVD, hard copy it, or get it downloaded on a hard drive or something. Do not leave it as a streaming thing because you don't own anything. It literally said that in the fine print that you basically don't own this. It's just you have an unlimited rental.
Numbers gone up that you never truly own anything anymore, but that's neither here nor there. Roy, Friday night, Roy is doing 2010, the year we make contact, starring Roy Scheider. Roy Scheider. And Phil will be on with Bill McNulty doing the politics from noon to 2 tomorrow. Nothing tomorrow night. Friday night, he is doing the Friday night freeform, but it'll probably be mostly music because poor Phil is also recovering, I think, from COVID.
Oh, well.
Phil, did you have COVID? I think you did. Feel better, Phil.
So, well.
So.
Anyway, I don't know what we're doing next week. Again, nope. I'm already at that point. I didn't have enough brain power over the holidays to come up with something.
It was enough to survive the holidays. And again, if you didn't get your RSV vaccine, go get it because this thing really did knock me on my ass. So, Just saying.
All right. Well, until next week, we'll see you guys. Thanks for joining us. Feel free to post up those fan films and tell us what you think of the ones that we posted. Until then, we will see you next week. Live long and prosper, and may the force be with you always.